Good evening and welcome. Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Monday, November 6, 2023, in person and online. I'd also like to thank the Legion and the President, John Bazar, Jay de la Durente, Rod Hodgson, and others for organizing yet another well-attended Remembrance Dinner and Remembrance Parade and Ceremony this past weekend. Also, congratulations goes out to Creek 53 on their public launch on Saturday, where, as they say, nature is their only client, preserving important species for learning and to preserve the unique biodiversity of quality and perpetuity in Hudson. This month marks our midterm, where, as several may remember from the pamphlet that was issued during my campaign, my vision for Hudson continues to be a quiet, affordable town where development is always executed with due regard to conservation and the environment while maintaining Hudson's unique character as an enjoyable place to reside, brimming with community spirit and care for each other. Also, in terms of mission, in order to attain this vision, I wish to provide responsive, welcoming, and resourceful services to citizens and property owners to restore pride of place and trust that taxpayers' money is being spent effectively for the best long-term value creation and vitality of Hudson. And to achieve this, I had set forward 6 orientations. So one was asset management, where it was to clarify and complete the cost assessment and plan to fix all the roads and essential infrastructure. So here we are midway through. And I am learning that in order to fix all of the roads, it is not a short-term plan, but rather a long-term plan. At this point, since 2007, with the quantity and the speed at which we concentrate on fixing the roads, approximately 30% of roads have been improved. So it is clear that if we want to be working on not just roads, but also improving on parks and ensuring that we have long-term conservations of key areas in town, but also providing services of quality and upgrading our urban planning bylaws, that we'll have to work on improving the roads at a steady rate, which will probably resemble a lot more bringing the worst quality of roads up to a level C, so where we grade roads from A, B, C, and D, A being the most recently fixed. And so bringing the level D roads up to a level C road, and probably on a cycle of about 25 years. At this point, when we came in, we set priorities where main arteries would be fixed first, and this we have gone ahead and done, and even widened and improved Main Road East. We expect that next year we will be able to bridge the gap between Quarry Point and Mount Pleasant Elementary. St. Thomas, Elementary. With regards to communications, monthly written updates are provided here in verbal form, but also Laura McCaffrey has been sending out bulletins through email, and there are more frequent updates on the progress of the town on key files. Also, in terms of the third orientation, which is to invest in employees' well-being that favors continuous improvement, as you know, we engaged the services of Martin Houd in September of 2022, and he was originally to serve as my mentor, and he continues to mentor me, but also is a great service to council in addressing some of our key long-standing files and coming to resolve. We also have Marie-Jacinthe with us, who is entering her 6th month with us, and if all continues to go well, we should be adopting a resolution in December to nominate her as our permanent Director General. We hope to continue with Martin Houd in the year to come, and hopefully ongoing. So these are a fabulous team, and certainly have continued to bring best practices to Hudson, but also to reinforce the quality of our staff and bring great stability within the organization. With regards to item 4 on reforming the town's budget process, so this continues to be a learning experience for me. I have reached out to different people in the community. I have one sitting in front of me. We have also, as of last December, mandated our CGT, so this is Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton, to help us get a clarity on the town's financial portrait in terms of where are we headed and how much can we actually expect to spend on a constant level without creating jags, sort of ups and downs, and the unprevisible or in terms of impact on our taxation. So this report you'll see in the next few paragraphs was presented to Council in September and continues to be a great tool for us in order to make some very hard decisions with regards to some of the infrastructure and major projects that are on our table. With regards to item number 5, redo and simplify the land use plan and planning bylaws, and to keep a sustainable balance between the town's economic vibrancy and the distinctive conservation and restoration of our key natural green spaces. As you know, as soon as we came in, we put in place the RCI, which was actually already ready to go. So this is work that had been started by previous council, and we simply received it and improved on it slightly and have kept going on it. There were some people in the room earlier who were anticipating that today would be the submittal of the first draft of the release of the RCI, and you will see as well in the next few paragraphs that I'm extending that schedule, where there will be the first draft will be submitted in December rather than this month, and we will be entering a more elaborate public participation process with public presentation and consultation starting in January, and if all continues to go well, then we would be adopting the final version of this release in March of next year, so where the RCI would be fully lifted once we have approval from the MRC sometime during the summer of 2024. This has been a very arduous process. We are also learning that our ambitions, although I think in keeping with where the region and the rest of the province are headed in terms of public conservation, conservation of natural areas of interest, we also recognize that there's a lot of people who have projects on the table and need for us to keep moving forward. So we have come to a point in the development of those plans where we are comfortable with where we stand. There are a lot of improvements, a lot of means that have been given to us through recent changes in the law, so the provincial law that gives us better powers, better controls, and so we will be putting those in place. And as we will present to you in January, it is our aim to then, in parallel, work on a more stringent conservation plan that will work with residents on a more incentive basis rather than a punitive basis. With regards to the 6th item on adopting and implementing a plan for safe and walkable towns of all ages, Reid will be very pleased to hear me say publicly that starting this fall, we are putting together the public tender document on the extensiveness of this type of plan and how much consultation will go into it, whether it's consultation of council, of course, consultation of staff and directors, but also the consultation of the public. So this will be quite a large chantier, and we aim to start this chantier as soon, I believe it's February, March, once we give the contract of that tender award. So things are moving forward. We are still a united team for the most part. There are the odd items, of course, where we hold different opinions. This is quite a feat, considering that we're all independents and there is still no slate in Hudson. I think it's part of the charm. It is certainly part of the challenges that we come across, and it certainly keeps the jobs of the directors always on a very dynamic foot, because things can change quite quickly. So here it is. That was essentially my midterm report. If you have anything that you would like to bring to me, please send me an email or reach out to me. As you know, I hold monthly meetings with the mayor, so they're usually on the Saturdays following the council meeting. The upcoming one will be held not at 10 a.m., but rather at 1:30 p.m. in order to make space. As it is Saturday, November 11th, there will be a shorter ceremony for the Remembrance Day. So the meeting with the mayor will be at 1:30, so 1:30 to 3:30 at Halcrow as usual. This will be publicized on the website. So as I mentioned briefly, I've explained how the RCI, the Règlement de Contrôle Intérimaire, so the interim controls, we are extending our schedule on the release more so to bring the public into our process and to go through a more extensive consultation process, although we don't have to according to law, because these are measures to protect the environment. We have chosen to make sure that the public is on board, understands fully, trusts what is being presented, and works with us. If there's any tweaks that need to happen, we will work on these together starting January and February. And also to note that the person who will be running this consultation process with us is someone with great experience who's worked as president of the BAP, so that's le Bureau d'Audience Publique en Environnement, so has run many consultation processes and is very excited to be working with Hudson on this as a sort of new venture and new department for her. Also, with regards to the RCGT report, as I explained, we received a draft presentation on September 18th. It has been asked that this report be tweaked and improved according to some of the comments that have come through already at Council. And also, we have asked that this report be translated and an executive report or version be prepared and also translated for availability to the public. So this, I believe, we're fully in our budget preparation period right now. So it may be stretched if we can't get it done in November. We'll see if we can do it in December, but it's absolutely on the table, and we want to share that with you. Interestingly enough, when I sit at the MRC table, my neighbor to my left is Saint-Étienne, and they are going through a similar process. So I shared our process with him, and he was extremely interested. We may even suggest that we bring this at the regional level as well, because it gives you a portrait of where you've been, but also sort of the tendencies and how to maintain a steady increase of cost, considering the ups and downs of our interest and our economic situation right now, but also to sort of give us a more, I would say, cautious directive in terms of how much we should be investing in long-term debt in order to improve our infrastructure. So this is also helpful. We also have a certain amount of surplus that has been accumulated over the years since the pandemic. So at this point, I believe on our audited financial statement, it's around 8.3. I'm looking at Steve, who knows the numbers off the top of his fingers. And we have very high liquidity as well. Cash, yes, liquidity, yes, we have a lot of cash. So all of this to say, because this is unallocated surplus, it is important for us that we allocate it to responsible projects and not just discern it to whatever the flavor of this council is, but to be thinking long-term. With regards to Pine Lake, I've seen the odd comment on Facebook. I know we certainly receive emails on a regular basis. I think our reflection with regards to Pine Lake continues to evolve. There have been, the town actually had a meeting in early of October with representatives of the Ministry of Environment and the Direction de la Sécurité des Barrages to assess their position and the urgency of the project in their view. So we have found that the provincial law has changed since June of 2023 for dams with low capacity, such as ours, and where it is no longer required for an engineer to submit plans to remove a dam of this type. And at this point, one simply has to fill in a short form online. So the requirements have greatly lowered, and all of this means that it gives us greater flexibility in terms of timeline, but also, as we know, with our rule of thumb in assessing what the costs would be of the dam today with the increase of cost of construction, where originally last term the costs of the dam that had been presented were closer to 1 million. When we came on board with the changes of scope that had been brought in and already the start of the increase of costs, that had brought it closer to 2 million. So at this point, just to redraw the dam with movable parts was bringing the cost of the plans alone to $570,000. And when we do a rule of thumb on that, with what that type of civil work usually costs, just in construction, it was going to be closer to between 4 and 5 million. So we put a stop on that project until we had a better forecast on where we stood with regards to the monies that we have in our hand, but also where do we want to go. We have a lot of investment to do, of course, in our parks, in our roads, in our buildings, and we also, of course, would like to keep a certain amount of readiness in case we are called to negotiate with regards to Sandy Beach. So all this to say, I think this gives you a good survol, a good overview of what we've been working on in the last few months and where we stand on several items. This evening, you'll see that there are 10 files, I believe, that have been reviewed by TPAC. And also to let you know that we've received news that Hudson's request for certification as a bird-friendly town was accepted. So the statement that has been prepared for us gratefully by Peter McBride is Hudson is by its nature bird-friendly, with our canopied village and surrounding forests, our grasslands and wetlands, as well as the Ottawa River, as a haven for aquatic birds. Le Nichoir Wild Bird Conservation was born and raised here and has been working for wild bird conservation through public education and rehabilitation for the past 27 years. So here we are. We, Council, are delighted and very proud that our town has received this important recognition by Nature Canada. I believe that the Circulation Committee will be meeting this month. They did not last month. The Senior Committee continues to meet monthly. And I remind you that the 55+ drop-in center is open 2 mornings a week, so Tuesdays and Thursday mornings here in the basement. They are very active, and there is a newsletter for their activities if you'd like to sign up. As well, you can find on our town's website the monthly calendar of events. With regards to culture development, so the Hudson Arts and Culture Council continue to be working on collating the information that they've gathered through the survey on cultural offerings in Hudson that was launched in May of 2023. This is a very lengthy and labor-intensive, it's a labor of love process where they are going through each and every answer and combining them, and we'll be presenting a report to Council, which we will then table, and this will become the basis for the cultural development plan that we are also working on. So this Cultural Policy Committee is composed of 19 members, representational of a wide diversity of people in town. There are, interestingly, quite a few people from the education and youth background, which is lovely. So we met for the first time in June, and our last meeting was in October, and the next meeting will be in January. So that, again, is a schedule that has expanded. We realize that being a bilingual town requires a lot more preparation, translation, and time, but also as it is a very broad committee, we would like to make sure that the committee feels that they're very participatory in the process, and we will be holding a lot of these events and workshops and others to continue to check in with the community through the process. I'm looking at Majda because this is one of her strengths. So, and I know that we have a lot in common in this sense. Otherwise, I've covered the meeting with the mayor. We've been holding regular meetings with the SDC. So started in August, I believe, or September, there was the beginning of informal monthly meetings with merchants, where the second one was held on Monday, October 16th at the Hudson Culture Hub. So thank you to the organizers of the Hudson Culture Hub for opening your doors to us. The next meeting will be as well very informal and will be a 5 à 7 at the Cameron Pub. So honestly, just an occasion for people who just want to have the same updates that you're hearing here, but more specific to economic development and any suggestions that a merchant or business owner may have to bring to me. This might make it a little easier. Also to inform the community that the SDC workshop will be held on Monday, November 13th here at the Community Center. Invitations are being sent as we speak. I sent my set this evening. We will be sending more tomorrow. This essentially is what came out of the survey that was sent out in October with regards to the level of interest of the Hudson business community for a Société de Développement Commercial. We have one in place already. This is a wonderful way for the town to channel subsidies into the hands of a board of directors whose sole purpose is for local economic development. And in the past, the town has supported this endeavor. Usually there is a return where the town will, perception, so will collect the SDC membership from the merchants and then return it to the SDC with a matching contribution. So there are some funds that are left in the SDC fund at the town level. There are some as well that are left in the SDC's own bank account. So it is forecasted that for 2024 there will be no need to levy any membership for the SDC. But the reason for this workshop is essentially to have the different members of the merchant community work together towards establishing a common vision and a common goal on where they would like to see this money spent and what type of project they would like to collaborate on in 2024. So again, November 13th, it's a Monday evening, it is here and it starts at 6:30. Did you want to add anything, Peter? No? With regards to upcoming events, so I've mentioned November 11th. This is a Saturday, so here at 11 in front of the cenotaph, there is usually a small ceremony. There are many Christmas markets taking place in Hudson in November and in December. There will be the lighting of the tree in front of Town Hall on the 24th. It is a Friday at 6:30, so November 24th, and followed the following day by a sip and shop. There is a group of very motivated merchants who are looking to put together a parade, and I believe that it will be on the same day as the lighting of the tree, and will essentially bring a float or a group of lit up vehicles through from Benson Park all the way to the lighting of the tree. I'm looking at Marie-Jacinthe again because the details are being finalized as we speak. But anyway, it's to give us an avant-goût, so a bit of a taste for hopefully a bigger Christmas parade next year. But we are looking to support the merchant community in any activity that they wish to bring forward. There will be a Santa breakfast on Saturday, December 2nd here in the morning. And we anticipate that the budget adoption special meeting will be here on Monday, December 11th. So you can already put that on your calendars, but there will be a public notice issued at some point. So yes, I could go on, as you know, but I know that it is time for us to move on to the agenda as well. But I do invite you to attend any of these informal meetings and ask your more specific questions or bring them at the question period. So thank you. I also would like to inform you that the town council meetings are being filmed, so there is a notice on the walls. Just know that when you come to the microphone that this is recorded and then available on our public website, so it is important that you be aware that you are being recorded. Moving on to the agenda, so item 1.1, that this resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of November 6th of 2023 be and is hereby adopted as submitted. Do I have a mover? Oh, en français, pardon.
Point 1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Alors, la présente résolution vise à adopter l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 6 novembre 2023, que ce soit adopté tel que soumis.
Merci. So a mover would be Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1. Whereas Council has reviewed the minutes of October 2nd, 2023's regular meeting, this resolution is that the minutes of this meeting be and are hereby approved as submitted. En français.
Section 2, approbation des procès-verbaux. 2.1, adoption du procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 2 octobre 2023. La présente résolution vise à ce que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 2 octobre 2023 soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis.
Merci. Mover to my left, Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So this sets the place for the first question period. There are 23 people in attendance. I see a hand up, and we will alternate between the room and online, and the microphone is to our left this time. So if there's someone, please come. Otherwise, Jim Duff, please go ahead.
Jim Duff.
Hi, Jim. I see you're speaking, but I don't hear you. I don't hear you in the room, Jim.
We will check the system.
Okay.
Continue, please.
So if someone from the room would like to come to the microphone and ask a question, and we'll try Jim in a few minutes. Anyone? Yeah, sure.
Said the rules are being changed so that you no longer need an engineer, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, and it's more would simplify things. So why would the price tag go? I'm just trying to understand what.
Sure, because that's to remove it, right? But the price tag to replace it is still very high. So there is no requirement, essentially, to remove it. They do not see it as a dam anymore. It is not recognized as a dam. It is a failed piece that stands in the way of the flux of the water. So they are absolutely in favor, or the Environment Ministry essentially is in favor of renaturalizing the embankments. And so they are in agreement that the simplest way would be to start with the addressing with the embankments, renaturalizing that, redoing the culvert if we need to in order to respond to the higher volumes of water, so the culvert under Cameron, and once we're ready, then to simply remove the dam. But the process of removing it is extremely straightforward.
Okay, so you've given an update on Pine Lake. There are two other hot topics, seems to me.
Sure.
Do you have any news about what's happening with the Sandy Beach project? I think Friday was the last day for Nikanko to contest if they wanted.
So we have received no communication or request for a meeting or anything from Nikanko. On our side, we certainly have gone ahead with looking to update the evaluation on the fair market value of the property to assess as well what types of subsidies are available, what would be the amount of, or the percentage that would be available for subsidies. As it is, public subsidies will only cover up to 65% of the fair market values. So the fair market value at this time, or in 2021, I believe, was estimated around 4 million. So that 65% of 4 million is not very much. We expect that the owner will want to recover any expenses, and also, if they choose not to go ahead with the project and make an offer on purchase, we expect that they will want to recuperate some sort of portion for loss of profitability. So that is the part that is very difficult to assess. And at this point, that's where the negotiation would have to happen. So we haven't heard from them, but we are preparing on our side different alternatives. And we're ready, essentially, if they were to call us tomorrow, we would be willing to sit at the table and listen to what they have to offer.
And the third project that's been talked about, and I haven't heard anything recently, what's happening with the Villa Wyman project? Mm-hmm.
So Villa Wyman, as you know, went through approval for town planning advisory, so the SPAPE, right, the site planning and integration program, architectural integration program. They hit a snag with regards to their project, or the parking of their project overlaps onto the Seeks property. And so they went to the Seeks and asked for servitude for that portion where it overlaps, and unfortunately that has not been fruitful. They haven't been able to obtain an agreement with the Seeks. So at this point, I believe on tomorrow's TPAC agenda, the project is coming back with a different parking plan that will be discussed and reviewed by town planning. I'm looking at my two town planning members, so we'll find out more.
Une histoire à suivre, like all the other ones.
Well, it's the change in parking layout, of course, comes unfortunately with a loss of parking spaces, and that continues to be something that is a big concern, right, for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Jim, do you want to give it another try?
Yes.
Yes, I hear you now.
Okay, excellent. Good evening, everybody. I had a couple of questions, financial issues. What sort of tax increase target are we looking for 2024? I know that council's already had its first run through the budget. I was wondering if you could give us a ballpark figure. And second, I know that the comparative statements are being tabled tonight, and I would assume that it contains good news about the welcome tax. I'm guessing, but I would assume that. So our accumulated surplus will probably increase by that measure. Can you elaborate a little bit, give us a little bit of insight on budgeting?
Sure. So council has not yet seen the budget. We've had a presentation from the fire department's chief, and we've had a meeting internally on what our key priorities would be for 2024, looking to set them to 3, and at least focus on those 3. So it was parks, it was improving employee quality of working space, and the third was, I'm having a blank. RCI, yes, so the conservation plan, RCI lifting, and of course all the environmental. Urban planning bylaws. So we're pretty much steady on those. They've stayed. I have to say that I was quite impressed, positively impressed with council's determination to provide greater quality of working space and place to the employees. So this will be obviously a point of great focus, and assessing what is the best next step. Is it simply improving the existing buildings or looking at a different approach? But that is something that I would think will put together some sort of working committee and come to a decision quite quickly in order to provide good orientations. We're waiting on some numbers and some greater detail from the directors in order to hold this working meeting. But again, I have to say, council's brave, and I'm willing to see where this takes us. So that was one. So then in terms of what is the target that that Martin and I and Marie-Jacinthe have been setting is 4% or less. It is a difficult one. We are in a negotiation, collective agreement negotiation, so there will be some catching up to do, as it was due this year, I think was the last year, so we'll have to look at what the impact is that on the salary, la masse salariale. And also, as you know, inflation, I think, is steady on average, and Benoit might correct me on this, but it's 5%, 5.2 is what I have in mind, but maybe it's, anyway, so it's above that number, so that's something that we have to keep our eye on. In terms of the work that is being done at the regional and para-regional level with regards to the incompressibles, so those are the famous quote-part, where we are tributary to the lack or efforts at controlling those increases. You've probably seen in the news the position with regards to public transportation and the increase in costs with la RTM. So this is a file that we've been working hard on. I have seen the preliminary numbers for Hudson, and it is a 5% increase for 2024, which represents about $7,000 or $8,000 in our case, but our invoice for public transportation is already $318,000. So it's already a big chunk for us, considering we have one train that leaves in the morning and comes back at night, and a little bus that does a loop. So that one, but the other jump that we know of is the SQ. So as you know, our invoice for the SQ is 1.8 million per year, and next year there will be a $100,000 increase. So that is a 5% increase. So there are some numbers that will be above the 4%, and we'll have to then, of course, adjust accordingly. With regards to your question on where do we stand, with regards to the the transfer taxes. So we were a little more tentative in our number in the budget, and we are still below that at this time. All of our numbers, and this certainly shows up in les états comparatifs, so the comparative statements, we are behind in entering all of our numbers at the Treasury, so there are some discrepancies, if you want, to count it from the 30th of September, but from what we see on our pile and in our books to this date, and comparing with other municipalities in terms of what their experience has been, there's definitely been a slowdown. So if we make it, it'll be de justesse, but we expect that we'll be slightly below, and I'm looking at Marie-Jacinthe because she's really the one who's been tracking these numbers. So anyway, it'll be close, that we will not be creating extra surplus from that financial post, but we do expect that there will be extra generated because we are still short in staff. We're short 8 positions. So that generates in itself a certain surplus, even though we have subcontracted some positions to external consultants, and that costs us more. Dava?
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there other questions in the room?
Yeah, Caroline Miles.
On va faire back and forth. Jimmy, please come. Please come.
Good evening. I'm coming up more with a commentary than a question. It's midterm now. It's halfway through your term. And I know that you probably don't receive a lot of appreciation and respect in the things that you're doing for the town. And I just want to recognize that all the work that you've done in the last 2 years, Madame la Mairesse, the work that we wanted to do at the beginning in 2017 of conserving our natural areas, conserving the look and feel of the town. Kudos to you that it's actually in motion and it's coming down the pipeline. I thought I would see it on the agenda tonight, but I might have been misled in some sense. No,
you are correct.
On that.
You are correct.
But
I appreciate
apart from that, I appreciate the pedestrian-friendly addition to Main Road between the tracks, and yeah, it is small, but it's a start and it's a movement in the right direction. So I just want to really thank all 7 of you for the work that you've done for the town, and keep
I really
doing the good work.
appreciate it, Jamie.
So
and I have to say, and I've said this in council, and I'm happy to say it in public, had it not been for the work of Ecoturb, now called Habitat, we would not be in as strong a position than we are here. You brought them on board, you brought them to the table, you maintained that it was necessary that they do it, and I was against. And everybody has to know I was quite defiant. I like to tell Darren as well. But so thank you for maintaining your road in that sense, and had it not been for that, we wouldn't be in as good a position as we are today, and also having had that as well recognized at the CMM level. So thank you again, and we hope to continue to work with Habitat with the next phase, which is the conservation plan. So
Great.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, online, I believe it's Carola Ann Mills.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Chloe, thank you for your report. Because you've brought up the Maxim report and paving, I would be remiss if on behalf of the residents of the unpaved portion of Hemlock, I did not make a formal request to know where we stand on the Maxim report. You may recall from the documentation that we had put forward to yourself and to council dating back to August of 2022. We made it very clear that there's no reason why we should not appear on the Maxim report, which we have not to date. We did expect that we would appear on this report. We would just like that confirmation. We don't anticipate being on the paving schedule sometime within that 25 years. There's obviously no commitment to that, but we do want to know that we do in fact exist. as far as you are concerned.
Well, you definitely
Thank you.
exist, Carol Ann. With regards to Hemlock, this is a file that Benoit likes to remind me of on a regular basis, which is excellent. But also to note that the Maxim report actually was simply an updating of les chiffriers, so the Excel spreadsheets, where they have gone through the town and updated the quality, the level of quality of the rolling surface and all of the other infrastructure according to either work that has been done, so contracts that were given, or what they can see visually as well. So Hemlock, I haven't looked specifically, but my guess is it's probably not on the list because it continues to be considered a road that is unpaved, and Maxim at this time, their mandate is really for the rolling surface, so the quality of the asphalt, and the piping or the conduits that are underneath. As I believe we've communicated to you and others with regards to Hemlock and whether that is a responsibility of the town or would become a sectorial bylaw for the work, it really will depend on whether on the deeds. There has to be a certain amount of research that is done in the deeds to see whether the roads were part of the original sales, because the length of the road in front usually goes with development. And once that initial cost of development is incurred by those purchasing the property, then the upgrade goes to the general. So it's a technicality, of course. We haven't had time to look into it. We've had quite a few files, but I will ask that we put it back on for 2024, Carol Ann, obviously as we are in the middle of budget, but it takes some forensic research for us to get to the bottom of that answer for you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. Are there any other questions in the room?
Hi, Steve Farrell. You're tabling comparative statements. Are we going to get them, or are you making a presentation?
Ils ne sont pas disponibles sur le site web? Les états comparatifs?
Oui.
Les états financiers comparatifs sont-ils disponibles
non,
ici?
Non, pas encore. Non, non, non.
Ben, comment ça... Bon, OK, alors,
non.
Numéro 4.2, ça...
But tonight, at 4.2, we table them, then they become public.
Exact.
So do we see them tonight?
No, it's...
We didn't print any.
No.
I didn't think of it, Steve.
So we don't see them?
You've seen them, but you're welcome to ask a question if you'd like.
I don't have them. They're not public yet.
No, I know.
And they won't be public until when? Tomorrow?
Well, they're public once the resolution is adopted, and usually there's a 48-hour
no
period or 72-hour period for my veto, which there won't be.
Okay, so I can't ask questions on them until I see them.
I have shared a copy with
So
you. If you would like a copy, if you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to.
I could ask questions, but they're not public. I thought they would be public
Would you
tonight,
like to
so I
wait till
came
next
here.
month, or would you like to ask your question?
No, I'll wait till they're public.
All right, very good. Are there any other questions? I see June Penny, your hand is up.
Hi.
Hi, June.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate a little more on the whole situation with Pine Lake. I have a blank screen. Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yes, so in regards to Pine Lake, now that it seems that laws have changed and situations have changed, how complicated is it to restore our dam? That's my big question.
How complicated it is to restore the embankments?
No, the dam
that was
there before. It's not a huge dam, and the quotes that we've received in the past are like astronomical compared to what the situation is. And I know for a fact there are local citizens who are very knowledgeable about restoring dams of our caliber, and also the dam in Knowlton, Quebec, that was just restored with great results. Where are we sitting with all of this? Like, I mean, do we just ignore it and let the crazy invasive species take over in that basin of water, or do we take action and restore what was the heart of our town before?
Well, again, it's a question of priorities and where do we put the money that we have, right? I think that at this point, the message we're receiving is to keep tax increases within an affordable level. So restoring a dam that at this point, the estimates that we are receiving or the projections we are doing, granted, they're on a very schematic level, are just beyond. It would mean that we wouldn't be doing any road work for quite a while, we wouldn't be doing any improvements on buildings, and we wouldn't have the capacity to sit and negotiate if it came to that in terms of preserving additional great areas of importance. So we have to make choices, June. It doesn't please me either to have to basically roll back on what was said a year and a half ago. The dam continues to be an element that, you know, you build it, you have to maintain it. Maybe it is time to give nature back the place that it had and to enjoy it as the retention basin that it is, and to work in managing invasive species in ways that we have seen in Terrebonne. They do beautiful, there's ways, there's programs of controlling that kind of spread of invasive species. And I think through the conservation plan and all of the other measures that are coming, that is probably a most efficient use of public funds for the long term. So as much as we also miss the lake, we are also fortunate to have still, at this time, public access on the river. And that is probably where we should be orienting the greater part of our priority so that it is accessible to a greater portion of the public. And I'm open to have conversations on this, obviously, but we can't have it all.
Okay, one last question.
Go ahead.
How do we sit right now as a town in the negotiations with the residents that are there surrounding Pine Lake? I mean, is there an agreement that has been reached, or are we still negotiating with them? Like, I don't live there, but if I was a resident of Pine Lake, I would be very upset right now with what's going on.
I'm not sure what you were expecting that we would be negotiating. There was a court case with a decision that came out, I think in 2021, if my memory serves me right, that said that the lake was not for the good of the residents around it, but that area had been ceded to the town for the enjoyment of all. So the negotiation is with all of you, essentially, to determine what are the priorities and where do we want to spend the money. But at some point, I think that choice to incur greater costs and greater impact on taxes and on our infrastructure belongs to all and not just to those who live along the lake.
Okay, so my response to your comments would be, and you have to remember, I'm a long-time resident of Hudson and have been through all of this with all of you. And years ago, there were many offers out there from excavation companies, from everyone wanting to restore Pine Lake. And maybe we need to put it out there once again. Okay, who are the ones that are wanting to make this part of our heart of our town again? Because when Pine Lake died, that's where I feel that the heart of our town died. And I would love to see Pine Lake restored in whatever capacity is required. Volunteers, excavation companies, everyone out there. And we all know that there are a lot of excavation companies in our local town that would be more than willing to help, to participate, to make this action happen. And let's just see what could happen, because I would love to see Pine Lake restored to its original status. And driving down Cameron and seeing dads with their sons and daughters fishing off the banks of Pine Lake, that was a really nostalgic, wonderful memory that I have. And my own children skating on Pine Lake and kayaking. They learned to kayak on Pine Lake. So let's restore it and make it happen. But we need to believe it as a community and make it happen.
Thank you, June. You have been heard. Are there any other questions in the room?
Bonjour, Luc Dionne sur Birch Hill. Au début de la saison estivale, on a eu des problèmes avec la piscine. Bon, ça a été réglé avec un certain délai. L'été 2024 va arriver quand elle va arriver. Est-ce qu'on a un plan ou est-ce qu'on a une activité présentement pour prévenir les problèmes l'année prochaine?
Donc, il y a une évaluation qui est en cours. Je pense que c'est les ingénieurs qui s'en occupent. On devrait recevoir un rapport d'ici la fin du mois de décembre, possiblement en janvier, qui vont nous donner un état justement de l'état de la piscine et des investissements qui sont requis. Donc, on s'attend à ce que ce soit aussi un de ces projets qui sont quand même importants. Pour nous, la piscine, comme on l'a dit à votre fille, à d'autres personnes aussi qui se sont présentées, c'est un équipement qui est important pour les élus, pour la ville. C'est un équipement qui fonctionne très bien. Il y a énormément d'activités de gens qui l'utilisent, on le reconnaît. Donc, on a mis de côté dans le budget un certain montant pour des travaux de rénovation qui se feront probablement sur une période de 2 ans, si je me souviens bien, mais ça fait partie justement des travaux d'immobilisation pour les prochaines 2 années.
Merci. Dernière question. Sur Birch Hill, on a 4 dos d'âne sur une distance d'un petit peu plus qu'1 kilomètre. Et là, depuis un mois, on a un trou de plus là, qui était... L'asphalte a été coupé, on a mis la peinture jaune, 2 cônes jaunes, jaune-orange. On est-tu en train d'installer un 5e dos d'âne?
J'imagine que c'est un culvert, un ponceau, merci, qui est en train de se faire remplacer, j'imagine, mais on va en prendre note. Et puis, je pense que j'ai votre courriel, mais si vous voulez, vous pouvez juste envoyer un petit courriel aussi à la ville, puis on vous répondra par courriel.
Merci.
Merci à vous. Anyone need a translation of what I just said? No? Okay. So I believe this covers, there are no more questions online. I don't see anyone standing at the microphone, so we will proceed with the rest of the agenda. Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment, Item 3.1, 329 Main, SPAPE, New Detached Single-Family Construction. Candidates? Yes, of course. Please go ahead.
So just a reminder that there are, and I didn't, there are opportunities for seats at the TPAC table. So there's a call for candidates out there right now. We've received a few applications, so I'd just like to encourage anyone who's interested to either learn more about it or to submit their application as for a seat at the TPAC table. If you need more information, you could just email me or the town, and we'd be happy to happily explain what it entails and what the commitment is.
Thank you, Peter, for reminding me. So the candidacy period is open until November 10th, and it is publicized on the town's website. So go ahead, item 3.1.
All right, here we go. Item 3.1, so a permit request was received for a new detached single-family construction at 329 Main. TPAC's recommendation by majority was to refuse the SPAPE. The unfulfilled criteria was to reflect the architecture of neighboring heritage buildings. En français.
Section 3, Urbanisme et Environnement, 3.1, 329 Main, PIA, Nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour une nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée au 329 rue Main. La recommandation majoritaire du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser le PIA, car un critère non rempli, un rappel de l'architecture des bâtiments avoisinants ayant une valeur patrimoniale.
Merci. So I will need a mover. Peter, moving? Moving, seconded by Reed Thompson. And this is for refusal of the SPAPE of the permit request. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. So I repeat, this is for the refusal of the SPAPE request on this lot. C'est bon, Madame McCutcheon?
Oui.
Oui. Moving on to item 3.2, 504 Main, also for a SPAPE major renovation.
Just before 3.2, I just want to remind anyone that's getting a refusal, feel free to reach out to me at my District 3 email address, and I'm happy to sit down and go over some of the criterias with any of the refusals. So 3.2, 504 Main, so a permit request was received for major renovation works at 504 Main. TPAC's unanimous recommendation was to refuse the SPAPE. The unfulfilled criteria was to preserve the existing architecture of the current building, ensure that the architectural elements respect the architectural character of the building, ensure in the case of a building of heritage interest, a restoration approach rather than a renovation approach in order to restore the building to its original character, ensure in the case of a building of heritage interest, if renovations have already altered the original character, to return to the original state, to reflect the architecture of neighboring heritage buildings.
3.2, 504 Main, PIA Rénovation majeure. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour les travaux de rénovation majeure au 504 Main. La recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser le PIA. Les critères qui sont non remplis, préserver l'architecture existante du bâtiment actuel, assurer que les éléments architecturaux respectent le caractère architectural du bâtiment, assurer, dans le cas d'un bâtiment d'intérêt patrimonial, une approche de restauration plutôt qu'une approche de rénovation afin de redonner au bâtiment son caractère d'origine, assurer, dans le cas d'un bâtiment d'intérêt patrimonial, si des rénovations ont déjà altéré le caractère original, le retour à l'état original, un rappel de l'architecture des bâtiments voisinants ayant une valeur patrimoniale.
Merci. So this resolution is for refusal to the SPAPE. I will need a mover. Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is adopted by majority. Item 3.3.
Pardon, c'est adopté à la majorité?
Majorité, oui.
Qui a voté contre?
Benoît Blais.
Ah, d'accord. Est-ce que vous voulez que le vote soit enregistré?
C'est à lui de décider.
Oui. Merci.
Merci. Item 3.3, 446 Lakeview, also for a SPAPE addition.
So a permit request was received for an addition at 446 Lakeview. TPAC's unanimous recommendation to approve with a recommendation to the SPAPE. To approve the SPAPE of the permit request at 446 Lakeview with the following condition, that the front door on the main facade be centered on the said facade.
3.3, 446 Lakeview, PIA agrandissement. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour un agrandissement au 446 Lakeview. La recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver avec une recommandation le PIA. La condition est que la porte d'entrée sur la façade avant soit centrée sur la dite façade.
Merci. So this resolution is for the approval of the SPAPE with the condition that the front door on the main facade be centered on the said facade. Is there a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.4, 664 Main, SPAPE, new detached single-family construction.
So a permit request was received for new detached single-family construction at 664 Main. TPAC's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE. En français.
3.4, 664 Main, PIA nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour une nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée au 664 Main. La recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA.
Merci. So this is one of these projects that's come back twice, two times? This is its second time, and the quality of the design and the presentation that we've received is very impressive. And it would be nice if we had des coups de cœur, sort of give an award to some of our favorite projects, but this is one that has really, they've worked very hard in integrating with a very difficult site, and it is nice to see that type of quality come into Hudson. So this resolution is to approve the SPAPE. I will need a mover, Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.5, 898 Main SPAPE Replacement Plan.
So the owners of 898 Main want to demolish the existing house in order to build a detached single-family dwelling. The demolition request to come will be subject to the demolition committee. An approbation request received for a preliminary program for the utilization of the vacant lot at 898 Main. TPAC's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE, the unfulfilled criteria. I've got it in French. To ensure that the materials, est-ce qu'on l'a quelque part d'autre ou? That the exterior materials fit with the existing architecture of the building and that their numbers be reduced to a minimum.
Thank you. 3.5, le 898 Main, PIA, plan de remplacement. Les propriétaires du 898 Main désirent démolir la maison existante afin de construire une résidence unifamiliale isolée. La demande de démolition à venir est assujettie aux recommandations du comité de démolition. Une demande d'approbation en PIA a été reçue pour un programme de réutilisation du sol dégagé pour le 898 Main. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser le PIA car à cause du critère non rempli, assurer que les matériaux de revêtement extérieur cadrent bien avec l'architecture du bâtiment et que leur nombre soit réduit au minimum.
Merci. So this resolution is for refusal of the SPAPE request, and I will need a mover, Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. The reason I keep picking the same two is they actually sit on this committee, so it is in continuation with their work. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand.
I'd like a clarification on something, please, if I may. It didn't come up in our council discussions, but how many members are on the TPAC currently? It shouldn't take that long to answer.
You don't have to be rude.
Well, I think there's 7.
There are only 7?
7 plus 2.
7 plus 2. So when you have unanimous, how many members were at these meetings?
I probably have it in my notes, but I don't remember.
So quorum out of 7 plus 2 would be?
Quorum's 5.
Okay, so there are at least 5. Some of these are big dossiers, and I don't know. I would hope that there are more than just quorum at these meetings.
Are you making a point?
Apparently not.
All right. So are we ready to move forward?
Est-ce que c'est adopté à l'unanimité?
Did you raise your hand? Was it for a question or against the resolution?
I was asking for clarification.
So c'est adopté à l'unanimité.
Parfait, merci.
Moving on, item 3.6, 757 Main SPAPE accessory building.
Permit was received for an accessory building at 757 Main. So TPAC's unanimous recommendation was to approve the SPAPE. En français.
3.6, 757 Main, PIA, bâtiment accessoire. Alors, une demande de permis a été reçue pour un bâtiment accessoire au 757 Main. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA.
Merci. So this resolution is to approve the SPAPE. Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.7, 69 to 73B, Cameron, for SPAPE of major renovations.
So a permit request was received for a major renovation works at 6973B Cameron. TPAC's recommendation by majority was to approve the SPAPE.
Thank you.
3.7, 6973B Cameron, PIA rénovation majeure. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure au 6973B Cameron. La recommandation majoritaire du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA.
Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.8, 686 Main, SPAPE major renovation.
A permit request was received for major renovation works at 686 Main. TPAC's unanimous recommendation was to approve the SPAPE.
3.8, le 686 Main, PIA rénovation majeure. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure au 686 Main. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA.
Yeah, mover for the resolution to approve the SPAPE, Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.9, 67 Cameron, SPAPE sign.
A certificate of authorization request was received for a sign at 67 Cameron. TPAC's unanimous recommendation was to refuse the SPAPE. If the council refuses the request for a sign, the criteria not met was ensure that the sign respects the architectural characteristics and favor that the sign does not obstruct the elements of the architectural decor.
Quelle direction on va aller pour vous aider? Ça va vous aider. On va présenter un approval. Donc, mais vous pouvez lire le critère si vous voulez.
Oui. Alors, 3.9, une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour une enseigne au 67 Cameron. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser le PIA basé sur les critères non remplis, d'assurer que l'enseigne respecte les caractéristiques architecturales, privilégier que l'enseigne n'obstrue pas les éléments du décor architectural. Alors, on va voter sur la demande de PIA et non sur la recommandation du CCU.
Donc, l'acceptation de la demande. Oui,
donc, vous approuvez.
Yeah. So this resolution is for the approval of the SPAPE request. As you see, this is a project that's the second time that has come to us. It pretty much splits the room in half every time, so let's try for an approval this time and see how the votes come out. So I will need a mover for the approval of this sign. So it is Darren Legault moving, seconded by Peter Mate. And are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. It's for the approval of the sign request.
You have one here.
Yeah. So there is one to my left.
Yeah, and I'd like some clarification. Because we are asked to vote on the recommendation. So are we voting against the recommendation of TPAC?
Correct.
Then that's how it should be read and written, such that it then defaults to the approval.
Si vous permettez,
Oui, s'il vous plaît.
Le vote actuellement va se faire sur la demande de PIA et non sur la recommandation du CCU. Le CCU recommande unanimement de ne pas donner l'enseigne, mais le Conseil vote sur le PIA sur la demande. Si vous êtes d'accord avec la demande, qu'elle est conforme au PIA, à ce moment-là, vous votez, vous approuvez. Si vous voulez aller selon la recommandation du CCU, alors là, vous vous objectez, vous votez contre. Mais on
That is
vote sur
always
le
how we do
PIA.
it. Mais on le fait tout le temps comme ça.
Ouais.
So each resolution that comes through TPAC, although we receive the recommendation of TPAC, most of the time we follow the recommendation of TPAC, and in some cases we have the discretionary power to go against based on the discussions or other elements that we can take into consideration. So tonight's resolution is to approve the SPAPE recommendation despite the negative recommendation of TPAC.
Exact.
So I will ask again, are there any objections to the approval of this SPAPE request? I know there's one to my left. Are there any others? Otherwise, it is carried unanimous, by majority. Thank you.
So Councillor Thompson?
Do you want it recorded?
No, no.
It just
it's
means
okay.
you show up.
No, no, it's okay.
Donc,
Do you
juste
want
par
to-
majorité et non enregistré.
Non enregistré?
Oui, c'est ça. C'est bon? We have a few of these awkward files, so you just saw one. Item 3.11, tabling of the monthly report. Huh? I missed that one? Uh-oh. Oh, 3.10, it is also a sign. So 448 to 450, is this your sign? Are you recusing yourself?
No.
No? It's not your sign? Okay. So a SPAPE sign, and Peter will describe the sign.
So a certificate of authorization request was received for a sign at 448 and 450 Main, or 448, 450 Main. TPAC studied the request and with a recommendation to refuse. The criteria not met was to ensure that the sign respects the architectural characteristics, favor that the sign does not obstruct the elements of the architectural decor, prioritize materials, shapes, colors that harmonize with the building's facades along with their volume and architecture, and promote the interharmony of signage installed on buildings.
So it's my bad. It's actually the new retail store that is next to Brazolo in the what we call the Jody Pascal building, which was the old, I should know, but anyway, it's Habib's, thank you. So it was not his building. Oui, merci.
3.10, 448, 450 Main PIA enseigne. Une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour une enseigne au 448, 450 Main. Le comité consultatif d'urbanisme refuse la demande basée sur les critères non remplis, assurer que l'enseigne respecte les caractéristiques architecturales, privilégier que l'enseigne n'obstrue pas les éléments du décor architectural, privilégier que les matériaux, une forme et des couleurs qui s'harmonisent à la façade du bâtiment respectent son volume et son architecture, privilégier des enseignes qui s'harmonisent entre elles.
Merci. So again, even though this resolution is for refusal, we continue to suggest to anybody who is in this situation to contact Peter Mate and to reach out to him either on the phone or in a meeting. So this resolution is for the refusal of the SPAPE. I will need a mover. Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? There is.
For the sign. Yes.
Yes, you're voting for the sign. So are there more? There is one against. You want your vote recorded?
Yes, please.
So vote enregistré, and it is with adopted by majority. As you see, signage is a difficult topic for us. All right, item 3.11, tabling of the monthly report for permits issued in September of 2023, where members of council take note of the tabling of the monthly reports for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department. En français.
3.11, dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis septembre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. Moving on to section 4, administration and finance. Item 4.1, approval of disbursements for October of 2023. So this resolution is to approve the following disbursements of October, as of October 27th of 2023, with a subtotal of payments of $544,195, with 1 cent, so dollars with 1 cent. It includes 4 payrolls, and the total of accounts paid for that month or up until that date is $1,068,725.29. So again, it is unusual that we have this many payrolls in one period. It is our HR person who enters the payroll was away at the time, so there was a delay in her entering those numbers. So we had last month with 1 payroll and this month with 4 payrolls. Voilà.
Section 4, Administration et Finances. 4.1, Approbation des paiements pour octobre 2023. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 27 septembre 2023. Le sous-total des paiements, 544 195 et 1 sou. Le total des comptes payés, 1 068 725 et 29 sous.
Merci. Do I have a mover for this resolution? Peter Mates, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.2, tabling of comparative statements. So these are the statements that Steve Farrell mentioned earlier. They will be made available on our website. Steve also know that we had an issue with our website over the weekend where it was not working. So I think that also took some mind space today and probably threw off some of the preparations for this evening. But sorry for not making these available to you in writing, in printed format. But if you would like to ask a question, either at the end of the meeting or next meeting, up to you. I leave that to your discretion. Section 5, I should read this. So tabling, in accordance with Section 105.4 of the Cities and Towns Act, Council acknowledges the tabling of 2 comparative statements by the Treasurer. The first compares the current revenues and expenditures as of September 30th of 2023 and those of the previous fiscal year for the same corresponding period. The second compares projected revenues and expenditures for the current fiscal year to September 30th of 2023 and those provided for in the budget. So essentially this is a tool that will serve for us exactly that, to compare where we stand and prepare for the next year's budget.
4.2, dépôt des états comparatifs au 30 septembre 2023. Conformément à l'article 105.4 de la Loi sur les cités et villes, le Conseil prend acte du dépôt par le trésorier de 2 états financiers. Le premier compare les revenus et dépenses de l'exercice financier courant réalisés jusqu'au 30 septembre 2023 et ceux de l'exercice précédent qui ont été réalisés au cours de la période correspondante. Le second compare les revenus et dépenses dont la réalisation est prévue pour l'exercice financier courant au 30 septembre 2023 et ceux qui ont été prévus pour le budget.
Merci. Section 5, Town Clerk. Item 5.1, appointment of Pro-Mayor starting in November of 2023. So considering Section 56 of the Cities and Towns Act, whereas according to the Act respecting municipal organization, Council may appoint from among its members a substitute to replace the mayor on the council of the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, whereas the council intends to appoint a substitute to the pro-mayor as well. This resolution is that Councillor Reed Thompson be appointed pro-mayor for a period of 6 months starting November 15th, 2023, and that Councillor Darren Legault be designated substitute for Councillor Reed Thompson and be appointed pro-mayor in the absence of Councillor Reed Thompson. To appoint Councillor Reed Thompson to replace the mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in case of absence, in unavailability or refusal to act or vacancy of the mayor, and to designate Councillor Darren Legault, substitute mayor, to replace the mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in the event of absence, incapacity, refusal to act, or vacancy of the mayor and pro-mayor. So essentially, this is a provision that we asked the MAMACH, so that is the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et de l'Habitation, on best practices, considering that There is some standards that seem to be applied in some municipalities and different ways of operating in other municipalities, but also considering our very particular situation in Hudson where most of us are working. We're 4, or I guess it's 5 out of 7 who work. It gives a certain flexibility. You see this evening one of our councillors is actually on flight. He is a flight pilot. I was attendant. But so it just means it gives us flexibility and greater certainty in order to fill that seat. It's always a loss when there is no one at the MRC for whatever reason, so this gives me greater stability as well. So I appreciate Reid for taking on this position. I hope he'll continue for a year, so you'll see this resolution reappear. And as Darren Legault is one of our seasoned councillors and also has represented me at the MRC level, for me it is great security and certainty to know that he would continue if both Reid and I were not able to attend. So thank you, Darren, again for being my wingman, my fallback person, and thank you, Reid, for taking on this next challenge. So, en français.
Section 5, greffe. 5.1, nomination de maire suppléant novembre 2023. Alors, considérant l'article 56 de la loi sur les cités et villes, considérant que suivant la loi sur l'organisation territoriale municipale, le conseil peut nommer parmi ses membres un substitut pour remplacer le maire au conseil de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, considérant l'intention du conseil de nommer un substitut au maire suppléant, la présente résolution vise à ce que le conseiller Reid Thompson soit nommé maire suppléant pour une période de 6 mois à compter du 15 novembre 2023, que le conseiller Darren Legault soit appelé à substituer le conseiller Reid Thompson et soit nommé maire suppléant à l'absence du conseiller Reid Thompson, de désigner le conseiller Reid Thompson pour remplacer la mairesse au conseil de la municipalité régionale de comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges en cas d'absence, d'empêchement ou de refus d'agir ou de vacances de la mairesse, de désigner le conseiller Darren Legault substitut au maire suppléant pour remplacer la mairesse au conseil de la municipalité régionale de comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges en cas d'absence, d'empêchement ou de refus d'agir ou de vacances de la mairesse et du maire suppléant.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover for this resolution?
Clarification, please, if I may. No, microphone's on. What's the difference between a substitute mayor and a pro-mayor?
It's been explained in the resolution.
I've read it 5 times and I don't understand it. So if you could help me, because I'm new at this. I've only been doing this for 10 years, so please.
You may want to choose a different tone.
Please enlighten me. I'm confused.
I think I explained that earlier. It is in the event that neither I or Reid can't make it to one of these meetings that we have a substitute replacement, and this was discussed in your presence when the representatives, 2 of them, of the Ministère des Affaires Municipales came to speak to us.
Yes, and
so that you feign today that you don't understand. I find it
feign. I'm not feigning anything. I believe the explanation is actually well clarified in the first 3 paragraphs. The 4th paragraph is the one I don't quite understand.
And how would you write it differently?
I don't think it needs to be there, because if Councillor Reid Thompson is to be the pro-mayor and Councillor Darren Legault is the substitute, then why would we have to even designate Councillor X as a substitute mayor to replace the mayor in the event of absence, incapacity, refusal to act, or vacancy of the mayor and pro-mayor? It's already stated in the first 3 paragraphs.
Because the 3rd and 4th paragraph are with regards to the MRC meetings and not the local meetings. So it is important for the MRC to know that he has the permission.
I'm sorry, I disagree. It said to appoint Councillor Reid Thompson to replace the mayor on the council. In case of absence, unavailability, refusal to act in the vacancy of the mayor, it's stated in the first 2 paragraphs who would that be, and that would be Councillor Legault.
As I just explained, the first 2 paragraphs are with regards to the local council meetings, and the 3rd and 4th are with regards to their presence at the regional.
And please don't tell me that I'm feigning something. I think...
May we move on?
So you want a refusal? I refuse.
I was just curious, can we add on the 4th paragraph that he's there for 6 months?
Designated. Est-ce qu'on donne une période pour... Oui, on pourrait rajouter une période de 6 mois pour Darren aussi. Parce qu'on l'a fait pour Reid, mais on ne l'a pas fait. Ou est-ce que c'est parce qu'on le nomme comme étant le substitut de Reid?
Can we be
Mais
clear?
dans la, excusez, à la MRC, on ne demande pas de période. On demande de nommer un substitut.
But in my mind, you should go with the,
Mais on peut, si
Mais
vous
on
voulez
peut
que ça
la-
suive,
Oui,
on
absolument.
peut ajouter pour une période de 6 mois
Thank you.
pour le 3e et 4e paragraphe.
thank you.
Avec l'ajout du 6 mois.
Merci, Madame McKercher. So this resolution, as we said, is
On va
for...
l'ajouter, excusez, on va l'ajouter également au 2e paragraphe.
C'est parfait. J'avais compris que c'était pour remplacer Reed, mais c'est
Ben,
parfait.
c'est un petit peu l'idée, c'est
Oui.
c'est le remplacement qui suit pour une durée équivalente. Donc, on ne voyait pas la nécessité
On va rajouter des
de
détails.
rajouter le 6 mois. Donc, on va le rajouter pour les 3 paragraphes.
Merci. All right. Do I have a mover for this resolution? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Thank you, Reed. Are there any objections to this resolution?
Absolutely.
Would you like your vote recorded?
Pardon?
We'd like to vote to be registered.
I think a negative vote is registered.
Donc, c'est adopté par majorité. Merci beaucoup.
Majorité.
C'est
Oui.
tout, c'est correct.
Merci.
Sans enregistrer votre vote.
C'est correct,
OK.
ouais.
Item 5.2, 2024 calendar of council meetings. Whereas council holds regular meetings at least once a month, this resolution is that the schedule of 2024 regular council meetings of the town of Hudson be determined as follows. And you'll note that the significant change is that we are proposing to move the start time of the meetings from 7:30 to 7. So just to keep that in mind. So the first meeting of the year would be Wednesday, January 10th at 7 p.m., Monday, February 5th at 7 p.m., Monday, March 4th at 7 p.m., Tuesday, April 2nd at 7 p.m., Monday, May 6th at 7 p.m., Monday, June 3rd at 7 p.m., Tuesday, July 2nd at 7 p.m., Monday, August 5th at 7 p.m., Tuesday, September 3rd at 7 p.m., Monday, October 7th at 7 p.m., Monday, November 4th at 7 p.m., Monday, December 2nd at 7 p.m., and that the regular council meetings be held here at Stephen F. Sharr Community Center located at 394 Main. En français.
5.2, calendrier 2024 des séances du Conseil. Le Conseil tient des séances ordinaires au moins une fois par mois. La présente résolution vise à établir le calendrier 2024 des séances ordinaires du Conseil de la Ville d'Hudson comme suit. Mercredi 10 janvier à 19h, lundi 5 février à 19h, pardon, lundi 4 mars à 19h, mardi 2 avril à 19h, lundi 6 mai à 19h, lundi 3 juin à 19h, mardi 2 juillet à 19h, lundi 5 août à 19h, mardi 3 septembre à 19h, lundi 7 octobre à 19h, lundi 4 novembre à 19h, lundi 2 décembre à 19h. Et les séances ordinaires du Conseil se tiennent au centre communautaire Stephen F. Sharr, au 394 rue Main. Et le calendrier sera sur le site. Calendar will be on the website.
Right, so we're staying with our format of the first Monday of the month, except on months where there is a holiday, so obviously it moves to the Tuesday. And the significant difference is the time that is proposed, and also to let you know that the first meeting in January, which that typically slides because of holidays, would be on January 10th. So I will need a mover and a seconder, so Peter Mate, and seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections? There is an objection. Do you want it recorded?
Yes, please.
So recorded vote. So it is supported by majority. Did you want to explain?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the reason I'm not against the date, but when I was not retired, I was arriving in Hudson at 7 and 7:30. So to me, I cannot vote against the fact that I would never have been able to attend. So for respect of the people who arrive late, I would like it to be maintained at 7:30. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Benoit. C'est bon, on continue. Item 5.3, Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec, General Insurance Renewal. Whereas the Mutuelle des municipalités du Québec became the Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec, the general insurance covered is provided by the Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec and is renewable on January 1st of each year. This resolution is that the contract for general insurance coverage with Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec be renewed for the amount of $133,763.71, including the tax on insurance premiums for the 2024 insurance coverage. En français.
Point 5.3, renouvellement assurance générale auprès du Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec. La mutuelle des municipalités du Québec est devenue le Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec. La couverture d'assurance générale de la Ville est fournie par le Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec et elle est renouvelable au 1er janvier de chaque année. Alors, la présente résolution vise à renouveler le contrat de couverture d'assurance générale avec le Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec au montant de 133 763,71 sous, incluant la taxe sur les primes d'assurance pour la couverture d'assurance pour l'année 2024.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Peter Mate, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.4, awarding of contract by invitation AO 2023-19-GR, Animal Control and Protection Services in the Town of Hudson. Whereas the contract for animal services expires at the end of 2023, whereas a call for tenders by invitation was issued by the Town Clerk's Office on October 20th, 2023, with two suppliers, Contrôle Animal Vaudreuil-Soulanges and SPCA West. And considering that only one bid was received and was opened publicly on October 30th of 2023, il y a deux personnes dans l'appel? S'il manque un nom? Non?
On n'a pas reçu de contrôle Vaudreuil, seulement SPCA.
Okay, so there is one contract received for SPCA West, which is for $5,000 service, annual base service, and on top of that, $3,181. The average annual charge for specific services in addition as specified in tender schedule. So considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution is to award to SPCA West, being the sole and lowest conforming bidder, the contract for the service of animal control for an annual amount of $5,000 before taxes, and to apply average annual charge for specific services in addition as specified in the form.
5.4, octroi de contrat AO 2023-19GR sur invitation, fourniture d'un service de contrôle et protection des animaux sur le territoire de la ville d'Hudson. Le contrat de service animalier vient à échéance à la fin de l'année 2023. Un appel d'offres sur invitation a été lancé par le service du greffe le 20 octobre 2023 auprès de deux fournisseurs, soit Contrôle Animal Vaudreuil-Soulanges et SPCA West. Une seule soumission a été reçue. Elle a été ouverte publiquement le 30 octobre 2023 par SPCA West pour un montant de $5 000 pour le service annuel de base et $3 181 en moyenne annuellement pour services spécifiques en supplément tels que spécifiés au bordereau. En considérant l'analyse de conformité de la soumission, d'octroyer à SPCA West, le seul et plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de service de contrôle animalier pour un montant de $5 000 avant taxe pour le service annuel de contrat animalier de base et d'appliquer les tarifs unitaires pour les services spécifiques en supplément tels que spécifiés au bordereau.
Merci. Do I have a mover for this? Darren Legault, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There is one objection. Do you want it recorded?
Single bid.
Donc, c'est adopté en majorité. Item 5.5, the Legion, appointment of a representative for the town of Hudson. Pursuant to a resolution R 2023-10-240, authorizing the signing of a lease agreement and considering Article 7 of the said lease agreement. This resolution is to appoint Darren Legault as representative for the town of Hudson to sit on the board of executives of La Légion and to authorize the payment by the town of the fees to become a member of La Légion.
Point of clarification. Please. Point of clarification for what period?
I believe it's renewable
annuel.
annually.
For year.
Ça, on veut juste clarifier. OK, c'est correct.
On va le rajouter à la résolution.
Oui, à l'article 7, on le mentionne.
So it's stipulated in the article of the agreement already. Est-ce qu'on le rajoute à la résolution?
Les frais d'adhésion annuels.
Oui, parfait. Thank you. En français.
5.5, la Légion, nomination de représentants de la Ville Hudson. En vertu de la résolution R 2023-10-240 autorisant la signature d'une convention de location, considérant l'article 7 de la dite convention de location, considérant que des frais d'adhésion annuels sont applicables, la présente résolution vise à nommer Darren Legault à titre de représentant de la Ville d'Hudson afin de siéger au conseil d'administration de la Légion et d'autoriser le paiement annuel par la Ville des frais pour devenir membre de la Légion.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Thank you, Darren. I believe that Darren attended unofficially the first meeting, which was last Wednesday, and I've already received warm comments with regards to your appointment. So thank you, Darren. Item 5.6, awarding of contract to Lavery Lawyers, legal mandate. So considering the invoice received from the MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges dated September 5th of 2023, the town wishes to mandate legal counsel to represent the town of Hudson with respect to the amounts claimed by the MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges in connection with the services of the Sûreté du Québec, as well as any other related aspects that may be identified. Whereas the offer of services submitted by the firm Lavery, this resolution is to mandate the firm Lavery Avocat to represent the town of Hudson with regards to the mandate concerning amounts claimed by the MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges in connection with the services of the Sûreté du Québec, as well as any other related aspects that may be identified. So perhaps for a quick debrief on this, as you've heard, the invoice that we received from the SQ ranges around 1.8, 1.9 next year, and for MRCs of a certain wealth, according to the provincial law, there is an amount above the 80% that is standard in that law. The amount is returned, so what is overpaid is returned to the MRC for redistribution into the region. There's only 2 or 3 MRCs in the province who are in this situation. We just happen to be a wealthy MRC, therefore there is a redistribution. In 2006, the MRC adopted a resolution that gave a very complicated mathematics on this redistribution method. It has come to my attention in receiving tables on what that redistribution looked like over the years, where for, let's say, a period of, I believe it's 2014 until 2020, in some cases, for some municipalities, so 7 municipalities, including Hudson, at times the MRC would give itself the right to take more money from the pockets of municipalities. So when I questioned this, because as a result of the 2020, as a result of the court case where 3 municipalities went against the MRC and asked to keep the old method of calculation, as in 2021, it had been asked that they move to a simpler method of calculation that would be fair to some of the municipalities. So this was contested, of course, by the 3 municipalities that made the most in this redistribution. And it's in looking at all of this and in receiving the invoice that I realized that they were asking for Hudson to pay out in addition. So not only would we pay to the SQ for services that the SQ provides, but we are being asked to pay in addition for services that the MRC has no competence and no right in providing us. They don't have that right. So I've asked that we be accompanied by a lawyer in order to confirm my assessment of the situation and to be able to retrieve some of this money and looking backwards and trying to recuperate. So for us, for Hudson alone, if we look at the amounts that have been deducted from Hudson or taken from Hudson, that resembles an amount of $475,000. It's a lot of money. And at this point, the invoice for 2020, where we have to pay back the new math, but also the old math. So it's the old way of calculating and now apply the new way of calculating or vice versa. The invoice is $520,000, which is a lot. So this is what we're contesting. I've discussed it at the regional level. There is quite a bit of discomfort at the regional level with regards to this item. Sainte Marthe has been asking for this review since at least 2012, 2014, when this began. In our case, it started a couple of years later, and it wasn't a constant. There were some years where we didn't pay out, some years where we did, but the amounts have been increasing through the years. So it's a substantial amount of money, and also we just would like to return to a more fair and more equitable way. The new math for us makes sense, but there is still some contention around the table at the MRC level with regards to, is that the best math? But for now, what is important is that they stop billing, essentially, towns for services that they can't provide. I hope that is clear. So you will see next month there will be a resolution where we state our position. Sainte Marthe has already done this. And we will also be, the lawyers are helping us with writing the letter that will accompany essentially our refusal to pay the invoice that we received this year for $519,000. So that is the state of that. Donc en français.
5.6, octroi de contrat à Lavrie, avocat, mandat juridique. Considérant la facture reçue de la MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges datée du 5 septembre 2023, la Ville désire mandater un conseiller juridique afin de représenter la Ville d'Hudson relativement aux sommes réclamées par la MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges en lien avec les services de la Sûreté du Québec, ainsi que tout autre aspect qui y serait relié qui pourrait être identifié. L'offre de service soumise par le cabinet Lavrie. Alors, la présente résolution vise à mandater la firme Lavrie Avocat afin de représenter la Ville dans le cadre du mandat concernant les sommes réclamées par la MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges en lien avec les services de la Sûreté du Québec, ainsi que tout autre aspect qui y serait relié et qui pourrait être identifié.
Merci. Do I have a mover for this? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.7, recognition giving rise to a property tax exemption periodic review. This is for the Canadian Heritage of Quebec, so I believe it's every 9 years. And this will be described probably in the resolution. So the periodic review of recognition giving rise to a property tax exemption from the Quebec Municipal Commission for the Canadian Heritage of Quebec in the file CMQ-59908-002. This resolution is that the Town of Hudson declares that it has no objection to the recognition of exemption from taxes filed by the organization, the Canadian Heritage, at the Commission Municipale du Québec, and that should a hearing be necessary, the town will not be represented. So this, I believe, is with regards to Greenwood.
Yep.
And so every 9 years, the CMQ reviews the files
every 9 years
that have received a tax exemption where they don't have to pay property taxes. And so they just validate with the town that this is still supported by us. Donc en français.
5.7, révision périodique de la reconnaissance aux fins d'exemption de taxes de Canadian Heritage of Quebec. En considérant la demande de révision périodique de la reconnaissance aux fins d'exemption de toute taxe foncière formulée par the Canadian Heritage of Quebec, le dossier CMQ 59908-0022. Alors, la présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville d'Hudson déclare n'avoir aucune objection à la demande d'exemption de taxes déposée à la Commission municipale du Québec par l'organisme de Canadian Heritage et qu'advenant la tenue d'une audience, la Ville ne sera pas représentée.
Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.8, authorization to sign. This is an out-of-court settlement. Considering the receipt of a notice of an out-of-court settlement in court file 760-17-006250-222, this resolution is to authorize the law firm Dunton Rainville representing the town of Hudson to sign said notice of settlement. En français.
5.8, autorisation signature, règlement hors cours 760-17-006 250-222. Alors, considérant la réception d'un avis de règlement hors cours intervenu dans le dossier de cours 777-006-250-222, la présente résolution vise à autoriser la firme d'avocats Dunton Rainville, représentant la ville d'Hudson, à signer le dit avis de règlement.
So this and the following resolution are essentially to close the books on any litigation that was taking place between the town of Hudson and the Legion. So considering that we've adopted the resolution that corrected the situation and signed a new lease, these are no longer an issue and we're just closing the books. So do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.9, authorization to sign, also an out-of-court settlement. Considering the receipt of a notice of out-of-court settlement in court file 760-22-012577-220, this resolution is to authorize the law firm Dunton Rainville representing the town of Hudson to sign the said notice of settlement. En français.
5.9, autorisation de signature, règlement hors cours. Alors, considérant la réception d'un avis de règlement hors cours intervenu dans le dossier de cours 760-22-012-577-220, la présente résolution vise à autoriser la firme d'avocats Dunton Rainville, représentant de la ville d'Hudson, à signer le dit avis de règlement.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 6, Human Resources, Item 6.1, Suspension for Investigation and Dismissal, Employee Number 967. Whereas the temporary suspension with pay for investigation imposed by the Interim Director General to employee number 967 on October 13th of 2023, whereas the administrative investigation that took place from October 13th to 24th of 2023, this resolution is that Council approve and ratify the temporary suspension with pay for investigation of employee number 967 imposed by the Interim Director General on October 13th of 2023, and that Council approve and ratify the recommendation of Interim Director General and proceed with the dismissal of employee number 967 effective November 7th, 2023, and that the Human Resources Coordinator is hereby mandated to pay the employee any amount due to this person as vacation or unpaid salary.
6.1, Section 6, ressources humaines. 6.1, suspension pour fin d'enquête et congédiement, employé numéro 967. Considérant la suspension temporaire avec traitement pour fin d'enquête imposée par le directeur général intérimaire à l'employé numéro 967 en date du 13 octobre 2023, considérant l'enquête administrative ayant eu lieu du 13 au 24 octobre 2023, la présente résolution vise à ce que le Conseil approuve et ratifie la suspension temporaire avant traitement pour fin d'enquête de l'employé numéro 967 imposée par le directeur général intérimaire le 13 octobre 2023. Le Conseil approuve et ratifie la recommandation du directeur général intérimaire et procède au congédiement de l'employé numéro 967, effectif le 7 novembre 2023. La coordonnatrice des ressources humaines soit mandatée par les présentes à payer à l'employé toute somme qui serait due à cette personne à titre de vacances ou de salaire impayé.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.2, renewal. This is contract of hiring finance department. So considering the resolution R 2023-08-195, this is for a hiring contract in the finance department. So again, as I mentioned earlier on this evening, there are some vacant positions and we fill some of them through external consultant contracts. So this resolution is to approve and ratify the service contract of Dominique Talarico as temporary consultant to the finance department, and that the mandate will end on January 31st of 2024 or upon the return of the employee who is absent, whichever comes first, for a maximum amount of $15,900 before taxes, and to authorize the Director General to sign said service contract.
6.2, renouvellement, embauche contractuelle, département des finances. La résolution R 2023-08-195, embauche contractuelle, département des finances. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver de ratifier le contrat de service de Dominique Talarico à titre de consultant temporaire attitré au service des finances. Le mandat se terminera au 31 janvier 2024 ou au retour de l'employé qui est absent selon la première échéance pour un montant maximal de 15 900 $ avant taxe et d'autoriser le directeur général par intérim à signer le dit contrat de service.
Merci. I have a proposer in Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Reed is getting sicker by the minute. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.3, amendment to Resolution R 2023-03-80, awarding of contract by mutual agreement. This is for Infrastructel Inc., service contract for permit and inspections, so similar to the Treasury Department. This is for the urban planning. So considering Resolution R 2023-03-80, by which Council awarded a contract to Infrastructel by mutual agreement for permit and inspection, this resolution is to amend this resolution as numbered above, so that the first paragraph of the decision now reads as follows. To award the contract of professional services for permit and inspection to Infrastructel for an amount of $24,999 before taxes.
Point 6.3, modification à la résolution R 2023-03-80, octroi de contrat de gré à gré infrastructurel incorporé, contrat de service pour permis et inspection. Considérant la résolution R 2023-03-80, par laquelle le Conseil octroie un contrat de gré à gré à Infrastructel pour des services pour permis et inspection. Alors, la présente résolution vise à modifier la dite résolution afin que l'octroi au premier paragraphe de la décision se lise désormais comme suit. D'octroyer le contrat de service pour permis et inspection à Infrastructel incorporé pour un montant de 24 999 $ avant taxe.
So essentially, the resolution in March read that the maximum amount was $18,000, so we are extending it to cover the period from now until the end of the year and bringing it to that ceiling, which is the maximum that we can allocate in a gré-à-gré, even though in professional services we can go beyond, but that is essentially what you're seeing here. They've done more work than we had estimated that they would do, which is a good sign, but this is why we're modifying. So it is proposed by Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 7, Culture and Recreation. Item 7.1, signing authorization for the 2024 Summer Day Camp. Whereas the town wishes to continue its annual offering of a summer day camp service for 2024, this resolution is that the town accept the offer of service of the firm L'Air en Fête as operator of the 2024 Summer Day Camp and agrees to the terms therein for a maximum of $23,800 before taxes.
Section Culture et Loisirs, 7.1, autorisation de signature camp de jour été 2024. Considérant que la Ville désire maintenir le service annuel d'un camp de jour pour l'été 2024, la résolution vise à ce que la Ville accepte l'offre de service de la firme L'Air en Fête à titre d'opérateur du camp de jour pour l'été 2024 au terme indiqué dans la dite offre pour un maximum de 23 800 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. These are the same service providers we've had for a few years now, and we've received positive feedback on their services. Item 7.2, support for Pôle Jeunesse project. Considering that the City of Saint-Lazare wishes to apply for a grant under the Programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein air for its Pôle Jeunesse project, considering that the proposed Pôle Jeunesse project by the City of Saint-Lazare would allow for regional outreach, whereas the Pôle Jeunesse project proposed by the City of Saint-Lazare would also be able to meet certain needs of our population, particularly our youth. This resolution is to support the City of Saint-Lazare in the Pôle Jeunesse project, as well as in their grant application under the acronym is PAFIRS, Financial Assistance Program.
7.2, appui projet Pôle Jeunesse. Considérant que la Ville de Saint-Lazare souhaite déposer une demande de subvention dans le cadre du programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein air, le PAFIRSPA, pour la réalisation de son projet du Pôle Jeunesse. Considérant que le projet proposé du Pôle Jeunesse par la Ville de Saint-Lazare permettrait le rayonnement régional, le projet de Pôle Jeunesse proposé par la Ville de Saint-Lazare serait également en mesure de répondre à certains besoins de notre population, notamment de nos jeunes. La résolution vise à appuyer la Ville de Saint-Lazare dans le projet de Pôle Jeunesse ainsi que dans leur demande de subvention au sein du programme d'aide financière PAFIRSPA.
Do I have a proposer? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 8, Public Works. Item 8.1, authorization, application for financial assistance from the Road Safety Fund. So this is the PAFFSR. Whereas the Town of Hudson wishes to promote safety for the municipal road network. This resolution is to authorize the submission of an application for financial assistance under the PAFFSR Road Safety Fund program to finance the purchase of equipment to improve road safety and to authorize the Director of Public Works to sign the financial aid request and related administrative documents.
Section 8, Travaux publics. 8.1, autorisation, dépôt d'une demande d'aide financière au programme Fonds de la sécurité routière. Considérant que la Ville d'Hudson souhaite promouvoir la sécurité sur le réseau routier municipal, la résolution vise à autoriser le dépôt de la demande d'aide financière au programme du Fonds pour la sécurité routière du PAFFSR pour financer les achats d'équipements pour améliorer la sécurité routière et d'autoriser le directeur des travaux publics à signer la demande d'aide financière et les documents relatifs au suivi administratif.
Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 9, Public Safety, Item 9.1, 2024 Provincial Program Financial Assistance Request for Firefighter Training. This is a resolution we seem to reach for or submit every year. It allows for a part of these mandatory upgrades to the equipment to be subsidized through the regional fund. So considering that the bylaw regarding the conditions to practice within a municipal fire department sets out the training requirements for firefighters of the fire safety departments in order to ensure a minimum level of professional qualification, whereas in December of 2014, the Quebec government established a financial assistance program for volunteer or part-time firefighter training. This resolution is that the Town of Hudson submit an application for financial assistance for 2024 under the Financial Assistance Program for volunteer or part-time firefighting training to the Ministry of Public Security and to submit this request to the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges and that the Fire Department Director be authorized to sign all necessary documents for the purposes of this resolution. So for training and not equipment, but we pass these on a regular basis. Here we go.
Section 9, Sécurité publique, 9.1, demande d'aide financière 2024 selon le programme provincial d'aide à la formation des pompiers. Considérant que le règlement sur les conditions pour exercer au sein d'un service de sécurité incendie municipal prévoit les exigences de formation pour les pompiers des services de sécurité incendie afin d'assurer une qualification professionnelle minimale, qu'en décembre 2014, le gouvernement du Québec a établi le programme d'aide financière pour la formation des pompiers volontaires ou à temps partiel. La présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville d'Hudson présente une demande d'aide financière pour l'année 2024, et ce, dans le cadre du programme d'aide financière pour la formation des pompiers volontaires ou à temps partiel au ministère de la Sécurité publique, et de transmettre cette demande à la MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges, et que le directeur de la Sécurité publique soit autorisé à signer tout document pertinent à cet effet.
Merci. Do we have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 10, bylaws, item 10.1, bylaw 526.16, amending zoning bylaw 526 to allow fireplaces in the front yard for commercial establishments. So this is for adoption. Whereas the notice of motion for this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held on September 5th of 2023, whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to modify front yard fireplace standards for commercial establishments, whereas a public consultation meeting was duly convened and held on September 19th of 2023, this resolution is to adopt the bylaw 526.16, amending zoning bylaw 526 to allow fireplaces in the front yard for commercial establishments as amended.
Section 10, règlement 10.1, adoption règlement 526.16 visant à modifier le règlement 526 sur le zonage afin d'autoriser les foyers en cours avant pour les établissements commerciaux. Considérant qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 5 septembre 2023, considérant que ce règlement vise à modifier les normes associées aux foyers en cours avant pour les établissements commerciaux, considérant qu'une assemblée de consultation publique a été dûment convoquée et a eu lieu le 19 septembre 2023, la présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement 526.16 visant à modifier le règlement 526 sur le zonage afin d'autoriser les foyers en cours avant pour les établissements commerciaux tels que modifiés.
Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So essentially this is to regularize the pilot project that we've had running for a few years where in the colder period, or especially in provision of the festive period, Festival of Lights and others, merchants have the opportunity to have a controlled fire pit in front of their properties, in front of their establishments, and these come now with a series of controls and regulations. So the zoning is more for the placement and where it should be, and whether it's a wood burning or whether it is a gas powered fireplace. But in the next item on the agenda, it is much more on how the actual controlling and measures and supervision. So the one that took the most time in adopting was the one that changes the zoning, which is why it had to go through a public presentation process. So we started it first, and now we are completing this with that next bylaw, which is much more on what the fire department will be looking at. And it is a two-step adoption process. So tonight is really only just for the notice of motion and tabling of a draft. We expect that the draft will be improved and tweaked in the following month. So I will need a councillor. Benoit Blais, he's been asking for this bylaw, gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 763-2023 regarding outdoor fires. So again, the purpose of this bylaw is to provide safety standards surrounding outdoor fires. A draft, so the draft of the bylaw will be available, but I remind you that we know that there will be some improvements and some tweaks in the month to come.
On the website, the draft bylaw.
You will put
it? Yeah, it is.
It is already?
It is already, and it is on the website.
Okay, perfect. So it's already on the town's website. So we invite you to
And there's extra copy at the door.
En plus, oui, c'est vrai. That's true, right here. So there is a copy of this proposed bylaw, of both, actually, these two that we've adopted, and you can find them at the front. I believe that is it. Is there any new business? Anyone? No. We are opening the second question period. There are 12 people left in attendance online. Jim Duff has put up his hand. I see no one yet at the microphone, so please go ahead, Jim.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had a couple of things bothered me. First, 506, the Lavery mandate. The SQ bill, well, we know the history of that, you and I, and we've covered that in the past. But what that says to me is this could have the potential of becoming a legal black hole if we're fighting with the MRC on our dime. It says more than 25,000, but less than the threshold decreed by the minister. How much is that? What that we would be on the hook for to Lavery?
So, Jim, it is absolutely not my intention to bring this to court, but rather to reach an agreement. At this time, it has been confirmed by Lavery, but also by the lawyers who have been working with St. Mart, that the MRC has absolutely no leg to stand on to be charging this amount to us. So I feel that this is extremely low risk, and I have also asked, and I am supported at the MRC level, that the MRC will be conducting their own internal review as well on this practice and will be bringing forward improvements in their own protocols or their own standards, but also possibly answering if the other municipalities are interested in looking after this amount as well. So honestly, I don't see this going to court at all.
Okay, that was my next question. Would the 20 other municipalities that are not benefiting from this, do they look like they might join Hudson in any legal proceedings?
So again, for us, it was just to back up the claim that we will not be paying that invoice, right? And so now I feel that in not paying that invoice, it's based on a legal opinion, and it is well-founded. Now, how the MRC chooses to respond to that and on what leg they will opt to stand in order to recuperate some or part, it will remain to be seen. But yes, this has been discussed at the MRC level, and I do have support from the rest of the towns, the municipalities, to look into this and to clear up the file.
Right, and a follow-up question would be, I remember when we were on council, our council said, let's not spend that money. Let's bank any monies that we would be liable for as if as if they were already spent, just in case we were on the wrong in this. Mm-hmm. What's the total fiscal exposure at this point?
Total exposure at this point is, I would say, 316,000 is the total exposure. We did put aside, last year, I believe we put aside around 250,000. As you know, we have obviously surplus as well. I can't go into too many details right in public because there is a certain amount of strategy behind that in terms of recuperating the full amount. So as I mentioned, the full amount is that 316,000 that we wish to recuperate that has already been paid out, but we maintain our position that we will not be paying the 159,000 that they're asking for 2020 according to the old math. So perhaps to clarify, of course, the new math, which was adopted in 2021, is absolutely advantageous to Hudson. And that is how, in 2021, Hudson received a redistribution in the amount of 360,000, right? And even the following year, for the same overcharge, we received 375,000. So every year we will continue to receive a substantial amount of money. What we would like to do is recuperate the money before that should have come to us, not necessarily for a change in math, but because it was charged to us without any possibility of providing any services or goods for the money that we were charged. This is absolutely beyond what the MRC's competency is.
Understood. And well taken. I'm glad you're going ahead with it. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
The other question I had, I have some concern about the tabling of the comparative financial statements that Mr. Farrell spoke to as well. My understanding is these statements is that these are the barest minimum that the ministry, the Municipal Affairs Ministry demands of municipalities. But we could ask for a far more fulsome statement of accounts, perhaps annotated by the treasurer, that would be made available to citizens so that we would understand. This should should it not lay the bed for or at least set the table for next year's budget? Should this not be part of the preparation for next year's budget so we get a sense of continuity of the financial status of the town?
That is the intent in having these tabled and made public by the government, right? Hudson, as you said, just at this time is only answering to the strict minimum. I think you will see when you see the comparative statements that there's some numbers in there that create some level of question, which is probably what Steve would be bringing up to the microphone in a minute. But I want to remind you and others that our Treasury Department has been short on staff, and if we are behind in entering some of the numbers, it is a sign of this short-staffedness. We can tell so far that the town is doing well. It's almost doing too well because of these comparative statements that are, if we take the date of September 30th and you do a pro rata across the months, but there are monies and there are amounts that are in a pile and ready to be entered. Moving forward, our wish is to have a full staff so that we can absolutely, as Benoit likes to say, have a true cutoff date, which can be compared year to year to year, where we are able to compare year to year how we are standing and have that to the budget. This year, we're not quite there yet, but we do have clarity on why those discrepancies are there and what they represent, and I think these are being taken into account as they prepare for the budget. So again, I think we continue to improve. It'd be nice if we could fill up all of our staffing positions. That would be lovely. But here we are. I see Steve at the microphone, so he's probably going to add to your question, if you don't mind, Jim.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, finish, Jim.
I think he was done. Are you done, Jim?
Yes, I'm done.
Done. Yeah.
Thank you for your offer. I'll limit my questions and try to be general, hopefully that you'll be able to understand, as well as the audience who don't have the benefit of having a statement.
You have to give a little bit of a prelude as to your strengths and experience so that people understand your level of understanding.
Well, I think most people know who I am. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I've been dealing in finance. Yeah, I was a public auditor, doing audited financial statements for private and public companies for over 12 years. I was a partner. I left and went to industry. I've been chief financial officer for 5 different companies, both private and public, ranging in size from $100 million to $1 billion, where I left the industry as the president and CEO of a $1 billion enterprise. So I have a little bit of experience.
So well-versed, very experienced, and I did reach out to him, I think last week, and shared the comparative statements that had already been given to council, and said I would like to meet with you and continue.
So the general question is basically what Jim is saying. How can you, in fact, take a look at 9-month statement against a 12-month budget? They're not comparable. And we all know that unless every single expense item in there is linear, there is no comparison that you can make. You have 100% of the revenues there because the revenues are basically taxation. They're billed at the beginning of the year. You all understand that, councillors? And expenses are incurred. Some are linear, equal every month, which is what I'm trying to explain. The rest, like recreation expenses on swimming pool, snow clearing, digging the ditches, roads, they're all, it depends on the season, their seasonality.
But that's a standard
So how can you take a
situation in
9-month
towns,
statement compared to a 12-month and make any reasonable judgment and decisions to run the town and budget?
Well, I think our job is to not necessarily audit the town, right, or to verify the town, but essentially to make sure that the check marks in terms of this is accountability that is required from the government and does gets done on time somewhat, and to ask the questions as we have, and we too see some of the slips, and we have been asking questions, so it's to stay on top of it and to make sure that the organization is also staying up on top of it. So as long as they have answers that make sense and that they are themselves improving on those situations, that is really our role and responsibility.
Okay, knowing the limitations of a 9-month inaccurate, and I'm being very generous with that term, inaccurate 9-month statement, because it's on a cash basis and many things are late in recording. Would it be unreasonable that if you get a statement like that to go back to your DG and treasurer and simply say, well, you know, understanding the limitations of a 9-month statement, can you at least give us some indication of some major expenses or items in the near future, the next 3 months, which could significantly change the revenue or the expenses for the 12-month period so that you can do a reasonable comparative to budget? Is that not a reasonable request for you to ask?
No, it is a reasonable question, and I believe that has been done, where, for example, I'm trying to think, but there was that question where, why are we behind on the SQ? Well, the answer on the SQ is because it is split over 2 payments, and the second payment is due on October 31st, so it doesn't show up, so we're only 50% through. The other one that was interesting or sort of curious was the interest on the long-term debt, and the question was, do we have a policy or procedure on placement, and what are we allowed to do? How far can we go? Can we place it long-term or not? So those are questions that have come up in certainly at caucus, and I believe that we are keeping track on that. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but.
So those are questions that were brought up at caucus and not the part of the questions that I sent to you.
No, this is brought at caucus for sure.
Could I have the answer on the long-term debt? Because your budget says it's going to be an expense of $800,000.
You're talking about the interest on the long-term debt?
And your financial statements show that you've earned $500,000. So you're $1.3 million off. What's the answer?
Well, the answer, of course, is we need to see how, I think it was better invested than had been anticipated, interest rates.
It's long-term debt. It's not interest revenue. It's long-term debt.
Derniers mois qui n'ont pas été complétés à ce jour. Fait qu'évidemment, ce chiffre-là, il est assurément pas bon.
What? So there's an error in your accounting? Is that it?
It's not already done, actually.
So you've earned $500,000 when you should have had an expense of $800,000? So are you missing an accounting entry, or have you not paid the debt?
C'est des recalculs de règlement d'emprunt.
So some of the long-term debt was repaid? Is that it? And so it changes that and this?
No, that doesn't make sense. You could have paid down to 100% of your debt, and you would have had zero interest on long-term debt. You can't earn income, interest income, on a debt that does not exist. So that answer makes no sense. Madame DG, if you could get an answer for me, send it to me through my email.
Absolutely. Yep.
Something else which is very important in your budget process and an interim review of the statements, why are you not showing a balance sheet?
What do you mean?
Do you feel it doesn't provide any information to you?
What do you mean?
Balance
sheet, yes.
Do you not get a balance sheet, or is it just a P&L?
Like a monthly balance sheet? Is that what you mean?
No, a balance sheet with your third quarter financial statement.
In terms of where the bank accounts are standing?
No. Well, the bank is only one asset, but your whole balance sheet, your assets, your liabilities, your debt, your equity, your surplus, all of that is part of a review of your 9-month financials, particularly going into a budgeting exercise, which I understand is going to be fairly soon. And hopefully you'll be presenting numbers so we can look at them before we ask questions.
So I believe that
those
generally...
Those are comments. I mean, I want to...
Generally, I believe that we receive that during the budget preparation period. It is, if I've got it right, it is that booklet where we see all of the advancement on the payments and then projections to the end. And it includes I can't even say it. But
it's the balancing.
Amortization.
It's the balancing statement to your revenue and expense.
Yeah.
Where all your surplus or deficit goes,
Mm-hmm.
and where all your money has been borrowed or is sitting there in the bank. Like last year, you had $17 million in cash
In liquidity.
at the end
so
of
that
December.
I don't see, and I've never seen, and I think that's a very good point.
You know, so if you were given a financial statement now, and it still had $17 million, I mean, I would be the first one to ask, okay, what are we investing it in?
Mm-hmm.
And who is investing it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'll limit those questions for now. Thank you very much.
And that was the intent of looking to meet with you to find out exactly, you know, those elements. We can only continue to get better. Yes.
Finance questions. I don't know what he's talking about, and I'm not very good in that way. But I had a question for Benoit Blais for the fires, for the outdoor fires, and I was wondering if in the proposed bylaw, it's my first time asking a question, by the way.
No, it's good. You're doing great.
I'm new to Hudson. Are like big leaf fires, are they going to be in here as well? Because they're very, very smoky and they come into our houses.
They're included in that.
They're included in that because I didn't see it? Okay. And so people need to have a permit in order to do them? To have a big fire like that? Because in here it says...
There's a limited size that after that it requires a permit if my memory is right.
Savoir, tu sais?
Sorry?
Comment qu'on fait pour savoir de loin c'est quoi la grosseur? Parce que it says 5 meters in here. A 1 meter square, yeah, but sometimes they keep feeding the fire. Okay. Okay, because one of my neighbors keeps feeding the fire, and it's very close to my woods, and it affects me because all the smoke comes into our house. My daughter's asthmatic, and I just want to know, like, is this going to be, why are fires still allowed in 2023 of this size at all? Like, sorry, but I don't know. It's a funny question. I'm not sure, but I don't know how to ask these questions yet, but it's important as a new resident. Another question would be pour le pôle jeunesse. Est-ce que ça remplace pour les adolescents, non? Est-ce que les enfants vont pouvoir, il va-t-il avoir une maison de jeunes ici locale à Hudson pour les 12 à 17?
So this is le plan directeur that we are beginning at the beginning of the year will be for Hudson specific and will address all of those questions and ideas.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. June Penny, online. You are next, June.
June, it's your turn.
June, your hand is up. You've been given talking permissions online. The hand just came down. I believe that completes the question period. Yes? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have the high-level analysis of finances that Steve does, but I was wondering, this council meeting and the last council meeting before, usually at every council meeting, we did have a portrait of how much money was spent in salaries to run the town. And we didn't have it last council meeting, and it wasn't documented this council meeting either. And I wonder if do you have those figures?
Yeah, we do have them. Do you want to read them, Darren? Your favorite topic?
They are there.
So they show up on all of les procès-verbaux, so the meeting minutes that are adopted.
Payroll 19 was $167,000.
19, so that's when? That was like in the beginning of...
Well, it was the one before 20, so it was the most recent one that was reported this month. So payroll number 19 was $167,000, $376.63. Payroll number 20 was $116,000, $703.64. Payroll number 21 was $122,313.05. And payroll number 22 was $118,136.96.
Thank you. So if you have those figures, why? Usually they were posted with
It's really just to try and shorten the length of the meetings.
So it's not the
these
meeting,
are
just to have it like you do.
No, I know, but they are available on the website once the meeting minutes are adopted.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
They're in the resolution. All right. This closes the second question period. Section 12, adjournment of the meeting. I will need a mover. Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson, that the meeting is adjourned at 9:52 p.m. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Merci. Merci.